Here at Intoxicated Reviews, we intellectually dissect the art of cinema, scene by scene. Here's some clips.
All he is just a fucking big wooden doll full of cum, chasing kids around.
You look up guys who poop in a bag. Because I think that's where you'll find him. Because he is hurt.
It's probably just in your search history anyway, isn't it?
A movie which, by the way, reviewed by my mother, the review was, "Thank God you were on early because we couldn't watch any more of that thing."
You got a wide berth here.
Well, this is a good scene. We're watching the infamous dildo scene.
You got trolled.
You were in, too.
Shut the fuck up. No, I didn't say shit. You got trolled. Corey West just trolled you.
Real script.
They didn't even give him a script when he got the job. They gave him a bottle of Stoli and said, "Learn this."
Did you stumble on the joke?
Talk about this movie for fart's sake.
This is we can swear. This movie fucking blows.
So don't forget to subscribe to Intoxicated Reviews on all places you find podcasts. Except Spotify. We're working on it.
Do not take product if you are hypersensitive.
Oh, hey, Internet. And welcome back to the Intoxicated Podcast. If you are new to the show, Intoxicated Podcast is a podcast where I talk to friends about various aspects of life, and doing so with the world's best social lubricant, alcohol. My friend Pat is on this week's episode, and as with most Intoxicated episodes, we covered a lot of topics. Our initial sort of thought going into this would be that we would just cover sort of our thoughts on anxiety and depression and stress as adults. So how do we deal with the bullshit that life throws at us? Whether that be depression, anxiety, stress, grief. Well, sometimes we just don't deal with it. And what I mean by that is we seek escapes in the shittiness of life. So a big part of this episode is the idea of escapism and avoidance. We talk about all the things we do as different outlets to deal with life, and most importantly, how to do these things in a way that is not self-destructive. Pat talks about the 3 F's, and that would be fighting, fucking, and food. One extremely interesting part of this episode is when Pat talks about a very hard time in his life when he was dealing with grief, and he actually hired a professional dominatrix. So it's an interesting concept, the idea of escapism and seeking out different forms of pleasure to deal with your pain. We also talk about the importance of checking in with yourself and others, and sort of ensuring that you're not repressing your emotions to a damaging degree. Now, Pat and I are both very expressive people. We both are just big talkers. We love to talk. So expressing our emotions has never been an issue for us. But this is an issue sometimes when it comes to masculinity and the whole idea that men shouldn't cry or express themselves because that's not manly. And guys, this is only scraping the surface of what Pat and I went over on this episode. We also talk about censorship, indulgence, pleasure, intimacy, and loneliness. We cover a lot. This is a doozy. This was an absolutely fascinating episode. I was entirely enthralled by our talk. It seriously was just such a good conversation. I took a lot out of it and actually walked away with it learning a lot, especially in the area of death, which is something that I think about probably every single day. And it's also so refreshing and nice to attack these topics candidly and with some humor, because at the end of the day, that is what Intoxicated is about. Comedy and humor is certainly one of the ways that I deal with life. It is an escape for me to make jokes sometimes when I'm going through something shitty. So that goes into it as well. So I do want to say a big thank you to Pat for being such an unreal guest on the show. It was amazing, and I'm hoping that he will be back on. Do not forget to subscribe to Intoxicated wherever you find podcasts. And if you like the show, definitely leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Definitely helps the show out to get more of those. And tell your friends about the podcast, because that is even better. And follow us on social media. That is Facebook and Instagram at Intoxicated Podcast, on Twitter at @in_toxicated. You can also check out our Patreon page. That is patreon.com/intoxicated. Tons of different reward levels on there, whatever your budget may be. You can donate as little as $1 or up to $20. We got a nice little growing community on Patreon, so certainly check that out if you are interested. One quick update before we get to the episode. Stay tuned for concrete details on the 12-hour live stream that I will be doing, which I agreed to do if I got nominated for the Coast Best of Halifax Reader's Choice Awards. So certainly this is a reminder to vote for Intoxicated if you haven't done so already. I will be sure to leave a link below to where you can vote. We are in the news and media category. And I can't wait to share more about the live stream. I'm just still working out some details, but I'm thinking that it's actually not going to be in August because I don't want to rush this. It's probably going to be closer to the beginning of September, more than likely September 8th, but don't hold me to that in case that changes. As of now, I'm asking around to some various guests to try to confirm people so I know that I have enough guests to fill 12 hours. I know, I'm a crazy person. And I gotta say as well, Corey is also going to stream for 12 hours. So you are going to get 24 hours total of Intoxicated. We are certainly really excited about this. This is going to be a huge undertaking and a good challenge for us to see if we can pull it off. And I'm sure that we will. So super excited to share more details about that very soon. I'm going to wrap it up because we are still in a heat wave here in Halifax, and my apartment is a literal oven. It's actually making me feel like I can't even talk right at this point. I hope you enjoy this very epic episode with Pat. Done? Oh, yes, that's much better.
Oh, beauty.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's the ticket.
Yeah.
That's the business.
It's also a bell for if someone gets burned really bad, like a good joke. You ding it for a good joke.
Jesus.
Which might not happen too much on this one.
I don't know.
Don't go easy on me.
There'll be plenty. There'll be plenty.
We gonna get into it. We gonna get into it.
Go easy. I don't go easy on anyone.
Oh, okay. Jesus, it's so hot. It's so hot in here. So welcome back to the Intoxicated Podcast, everybody. It is a extremely hot day in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I have a very special guest on the show who I've been trying to get on the show forever.
Yeah, a year or more, probably.
Oh my God, yeah. We've been talking about it for a while. I have Pat on the show.
Hello, everybody.
Put in an applause sound effect right here, Sarah. Yeah. So I've been trying to. This is I think our third attempt at recording, something like that.
Yeah, one was yesterday.
One was yesterday, and we were both like, "Nope, too hot."
Too hot.
And it's real hot
tired.
today, but we're here.
Yeah.
I'm wearing very little, and my boobs might pop out of my shirt, but
it's okay. I might take my pants off halfway through this.
We
see.
might end up without clothes on,
That's
and
fine.
not in a sexual way at all, just in a way
just
of
hanging out. Just let it all hang out.
It is so hot. It's 30, but with a humidex of 38 or something right now.
Yeah, this is
ridiculous.
people dying hot.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah, this is like people dying in a heat wave hot, which is going to continue happening apparently.
Yay.
Deaths from heat waves are just going to skyrocket in the next 2 decades.
Terrifying.
Right? Thanks, global warming.
Is that mostly old people though?
Probably.
Yeah.
Take
we're
that,
probably
baby
okay,
boomers.
right?
Fuck you.
Fuck you. Well, I was telling Pat before we hit record. Ooh.
That's just unprofessional.
I know, sorry. I was telling Pat that I'm drinking so much water, but it just goes right through me. I drink it and then I pee.
It just comes out your pores too. You just sweat it out.
It's just ridiculous. But
Sweating to the oldies.
we are drinking some gin. It is a local gin. It is Nova Scotia Spirit Co. Willing to Learn Gin.
Willing to learn.
Which I loved the name because I thought it was kind of appropriate. For the
I enjoy that. Yeah, willing to learn.
Willing to Learn Gin.
Getting into discussions and listening.
Yep. And that's what it's about today. So we're drinking a Tom Collins. This is really interesting because I tried to make it and I was not doing it right at all.
I didn't do a bad job.
So we're drinking this gin, and it's Tom Collins, if you don't know, it's gin, simple syrup, lemon juice, club soda.
And a pretty little maraschino cherry.
And maraschino cherry. Maraschino, like in cherry. Grease, anyone? No? Okay. But yeah, it's delightful. And I fucked it up, but you're going to make the next one, so.
We'll see how bad I can fuck it up.
So it's really good in summer. So we're bringing it for a cheers. We always
Into
have
it?
we have to start with a cheers and not a... Okay. Woohoo!
Yeah, I feel like I'm desperately outpacing you.
You really are. You really
just-
are. You might have to make those drinks
Such a
sooner than you
refreshing
think.
drink.
It's delightful. And we have a pitcher of water right beside us so we don't die.
It'll be all right.
First
We'll make it.
death on the podcast. But friendship, origin, story.
Yeah, we go way back.
We go way back.
Like, farther back than I'd like to admit, considering the graduating was, 7 years ago?
Like 7 or 8 years, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Because it would have been 2010.
When did I get old?
So we went to the same school for I was only there for, my program was a year, so.
Mine was 2 years.
So we kind of met through that.
Yeah, briefly.
And weren't really, I mean, we were friends, but
we didn't really have a lot of...
know each other that well.
Yeah, we were both pretty busy with our respective programs, and didn't really have a lot of overlap, because there were a lot of programs at that school, like sound design and 3D design, that were far more relevant to filmmaking, which I was in.
Right.
And you were doing event coordination, so very little overlap there, I think.
But it was a tiny school.
Yeah, very small.
Can we talk briefly about the school? It was... Okay, the show Community, it wasn't like that. It was way smaller.
No, it was not like that at all. It was far less whimsical as well.
Yeah. Super small.
It was interesting. You I wouldn't have traded it for the world, mind you, but it certainly wasn't the cut and dry academic education I was expecting. Yeah,
not at all.
I remember we had some classes where we just went to the Pogue Fido and
Yes!
had a few pints and
Oh my God,
just fucked
yes!
around. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
back when the Pogue Fido was a thing.
And me coming, I came from a university background. So going into that was just what is this?
Yeah, I need structure, goddammit.
Yeah, it was, but I met some of my still to this day close friends there.
Yeah, I still bump into people all the time.
Yeah. So wouldn't trade it for the world. But we met there and then we just kind of stayed Facebook friends essentially.
Yeah, and the beauty of Halifax is that, you always orbit around these people for years and months or whatever. And you tend to collide from time to time, which is nice.
Really nice.
So you can just... I'm a big fan of getting to know people and, going on your way and then just, crossing paths from time to time kind of thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you're there's a common thread here. Let's talk. Let's...
Yeah,
let's
you kind
catch
of just
up.
weave in and out of each other's lives from time to time, especially when you live in a small... Well, I say small, but, it's actually a pretty large community on the grand scale.
Right.
I come from Cape Breton, so, we're talking 150 people in a community, so...
Right. And I'm coming from Antigonish, so same thing.
Yeah, I didn't know any of those people because I didn't give a fuck to, really.
Uh-huh.
Because they were all, closed-minded Luddites half the time.
Where in Cape Breton?
Just a little town called Evanston.
Wow.
Just outside of Port Hawkesbury. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
10, 15 minutes outside of the Causeway.
Small town life.
Yeah.
What was small town life like for you?
I don't know. I got to about 13, 14, and most of my free time was spent either running around in the woods with my childhood friends or reading comic books, playing video games, or reading. Yeah.
And did you know you always in your mind were you I want to go to a big city, or was Halifax for me it was I want to go to the big city of Halifax. I had no idea how small Halifax really was.
I traveled around a little bit. I spent a summer in Japan when I was about 16, so I got to see Tokyo and I got to see Chiba and Nagano and a few of these major cities. That made me really interested in traveling. So I dropped out of Dalhousie when I was 18, moved out to Vancouver. I moved to Edmonton for a year and a half, 2 years. Lived in... Well, I can't say lived in, couch surfed in Toronto for a while, and just kind of hopped back and forth through major cities and stuff like that. I needed experience. I needed culture. I needed something different. I just wasn't content to continue living this monotonous life where most of what you talked about was just gossip, other people,
the same scenery every day. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, because you just kind of lose your eye for the beauty of it. You have to leave and come back. to see any good in it whatsoever. And yeah, so
What was Japan like?
It was incredible.
Yeah, I really want to go. It's it's on my list.
Of all the places I've traveled, it's the single most incredible because it's both fascinating and welcoming, and also terrifying and different and strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that. Culture shock.
And I'm just not the kind of person to get culture shock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I kind of am, but like, I just need to like kind of be in it for a bit, and then I'll get used to it.
Well, it's like jumping into a pool of cold water, right?
Which I would
There's
love
that initial
to do
shock
right now.
Oh my god!
Can you just imagine?
Well,
I had a hot shower earlier, and like, I was in the shower going, "What are you doing?
Right.
You're warm.
Rookie.
Why are you
move.
wanting to get more warm?" And then I realized that the reason I was doing that was to get the feeling of coming out of the hot shower into the still hot room, but it's like less hot than in the bathroom, so you feel that like kind of instant relief.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be kind of rough. Oh my god. Why? No, let's stop talking about the heat.
We're gonna die. We're drinking in this heat too. Yeah, it's true. Do you want to know? Oh yeah,
where's your cat?
Oh yeah, even Mindy's like,
Mindy's dead.
Fuck this. But yeah, it's really cool how we kind of reconnected because we were just kind of Facebook friends. And I remember when you did a podcast called "It's on Halifax," right?
Yeah, did that for about 3-4 years.
I would tune in every now and then to that.
Yeah.
And then, like, I guess when I launched Intoxicated, you were like, "Whoa, that's cool," and then you messaged me.
I had a really good time doing it with my buddy Adam. For the time that we did, we had press passes to HalCon for 2 years in a row, and that was incredible. Like it was so worthwhile doing that because I built great relationships with Adam, our controller Emily, and then being able to go to HalCon and interview some of my favorite like childhood celebrities.
Oh my god, amazing!
It was really cool. Adam got to interview John Rhys Davies, and I got to interview one of the Doctor Who's, and I got to interview David Wong from Star Trek Voyager. Like,
wow!
It was a really cool experience. We got to go to HalCon for free 2 years in a row. I went out and partied with the guys from Cyanide and Happiness, and a game designer named Jason Anarchy. We went on this pub crawl and got kicked out of so many bars, and it was just, oh my god, the Sunday that I had to interview people was a nightmare because I'd gone out with all of these like lesser celebrities and game designers and like artists, and now who's
rude, huh? No, just joking.
You can tell I work in the service industry because my alarm was set for 9 p.m.
Oh my goodness.
Who fucking has alarms set for 9 p.m.?
I mean, I do it every now and then when I take I'm such a evening napper.
Yes. Yeah.
I will take naps, and it's so dumb and it's so terrible to myself to do this to myself because I don't even work in the service industry, but we probably have similar sleep schedules because I like to sleep late.
I've been off the last 2 days, and yesterday I had that on because I was supposed to come here at 10 actually.
Which, like, I remember when we made the plan to record at 10, I was like, that's not that late. And then I realized that I had to get up I had to be at work for 9, which means I have to get up at 7, which isn't too bad, but I'm a terrible goddamn sleeper. And, like, if you had stayed over for, say, 2 to 3 hours, I still would have been up probably for at least another hour and a half because after I record, I'm usually buzzing.
Right.
And I need a wind down, and I'm also addicted to the internet, and I'm always on my phone, and I'm constantly looking at a screen.
Well, and that's me coming home from work too. Like if I close the bar at 2 a.m., I need a wind down, and I've probably had like 2 beer after work.
Yeah.
And just kind of come home and maybe have another beer, and I don't get to bed until like I can hear the birds chirping out the window.
Oh,
I'm
really?
Like,
that late? See, I'm like 3 is like. I would honestly say 2 is my standard, and on weekends it's 3 or 4 for me.
Yeah, and I'm not to mention the fact that I had gone to boxing at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So by the time I got back, I was absolutely fucking knackered.
Oh, I bet.
Like, I'd sweat out like 3 pounds of water weight and
amazing.
Could barely move and was like, I'm just not going to go anywhere.
I don't blame you, to be honest.
And that's part of the beauty of it is that, you know, you get to sleep at the very least because you're so exhausted.
Yeah.
I threw on Avatar The Last Airbender, watched an episode or two, and was just ready to fucking fall asleep on the couch.
Amazing.
What? I love that show. It's great.
Boxing, eh? So, like, what do you like about boxing?
I've done it for about 8 years now. The only sports I've ever played were combat sports.
Right.
And I say play as in you play other sports. You participate in combat sports. It's
right.
When I was a kid, my parents put me in Taekwondo because I was getting pretty bullied.
Oh, shit.
I'd skipped a grade. You know, like I skipped the 3rd grade, so I went from grade 2 to grade 4. And so, you know, you had a lot of those older kids. And when you're that young, a year is a whole lot. Like that's a big gap.
It's like 5 years.
Yeah, you know, you become kind of a pariah. So I got pretty picked on come junior high, and I was put into Taekwondo, and really I never defended myself against my bully or anything like that. You know, I've never been in a fight my entire life, considering I've been training in different fighting styles for well over 15 years.
Whoa! And you never actually encountered it in real life?
No, I've never been in a fight.
Huh.
Well, because by the time you reach adulthood, I've come to realize that the only people who use violence to get what they want they generally just use the threat of violence. Mm-hmm. Once you kind of meet the threat with a social contract, they stop. They just step down. I've diffused a lot of fights by having some guy go, "What are you going to do about it?" I'm like, "Oh, well, you want to just go out back and we'll figure it out?" And they're like, "What? You going to take a swing at me?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to take a swing at you here because this is a bar and the bouncers will pull me off of you. I'm going to take you out back and I'm going to beat the fuck out of you." And they're just like, "Oh shit, this guy's serious. Like he's for real."
And then that's when they're like...
"No, fuck that."
They'll walk away.
Well, because they use the threat of like, "What are you going to do, take a swing at me?" Like, no, I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm going to get arrested.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
What would you do if they were like, "Okay, let's go"?
I would absolutely go.
Really? Okay.
100%.
Well, I mean, I guess you're trained in it. So
I'm also a bit of a masochist too. Like
we are 17 minutes in. Let's talk about that.
It comes from like learning to speak the language of violence, I guess, and I've had this. I touched on this a little bit when I was talking to the folks from Turn Me On, because I talked about paying to have a professional dominatrix.
Yes.
And I mentioned that it was less about the pain and more about being able to endure the pain.
Yeah.
So you don't get pleasure from the pain. You get pleasure from enduring the pain.
You're like, "Oh, I got through that."
Exactly. Yeah. And it builds you up a little bit. So if someone were to say like, "Oh, well, then yeah, let's go out back and fight, and it'll be the two of us," I'd be like, "All right, well, this is how it's gonna go." And come what may, really, like.
Yeah.
And part of it comes from just like a reckless abandon that I have as well. Like there is like just a mild fucking like death wish going on there. You know, and people are like, "Well, aren't you scared that, you know, you bounce your head off the concrete and die?" And I'm like, "Kind of, I guess, but you don't really think about it at the time, you know."
You're like on adrenaline a bit.
Yeah.
More than that.
And I know people who have been adrenaline junkies and skydive and they do crazy dangerous shit all the time. And yeah, agreeing to fight someone in a fucking concrete alley is no different. Right?
No, not at all.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the people who use violence are either sociopaths or just emotionally stunted.
Something's
in a lot of
going
ways.
on there.
So
yeah.
The second, I think that's why a lot of people, when you agree to meet their violence with like this controlled, calculated approach, they're like, they get scared because really all they were doing was threatening violence because that's really all they know how to do, because maybe they came from a broken home, maybe they had an abusive father, maybe they had abusive parents, kind of thing. And that's really the only way they know how to resolve things.
So true.
Yeah. But some people are just straight fucking sociopaths. And that's scary.
That is real scary.
That's why I don't go to the Toothy Moose anymore.
Oh, dang. Just a bar full of sociopaths.
Essentially, yeah.
Do you think you're friends with any sociopaths?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe I am one.
I was just thinking, are you one?
I mean,
I don't think you are, because you talk about your feelings.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, of course I'm not. And it's funny to joke about.
It is, yeah.
And I think being able to talk about those feelings and being in tune with how I feel and being in tune with the negative things I feel kind of makes me come off that way sometimes. But I think a lot of people just don't admit to the shit that goes on in their head.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
So, like, this is kind of what triggered you coming on, was I just find it, especially with males, I just want to know more about that. Like, that, because, like, I'm always expressing myself. It's just how I've always been. I've never felt the need to repress in any way. But as a chick who's friends with a lot of dudes, I find them repressing so much.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, were you always someone who just was always in tune with that? Like, how did that...
No, when I was a kid, I was actually very, very emotional. I would take these tantrums. I would cry out of frustration. I would flip out as a kid.
Same.
And you kind of learn to control it. And I did get a little numb over time. But you have to find your outlets, right? You really have to.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's huge.
I live by the 3 Fs.
Ooh, what are the 3 Fs?
Fighting, fucking, and food.
I love it! Fighting? So, like, physical activity, like boxing?
Yeah. Yeah,
or
like a release for the violent tendencies that we all have. For that violent energy, the physical energy.
Fucking, of course.
Fucking. Yeah. Which sometimes is a release of that violent energy, depending on who you're with.
You know what's weird, though? And, like, this is what I'll say about that. I totally agree. Because, like, when I'm going through shit is when I want to fuck the most.
This animalistic urge, right?
Yes. And
I talked about that on Turn Me On as well. That weird, like, I wound up sleeping with well, I wouldn't even call it sleeping with, just having this, we fucked it out in one of the, like, quote-unquote family rooms in the...
hospital!
Right, yeah, like in the ICU. And it was just this, like, total release. It was just this animalistic urge, this energy that needed to be expelled.
Needed to be put out. Yeah.
And food, like, all of these 3 things speak to the most basic human urges. Mm-hmm. The urge to procreate, the urge to defend yourself and your loved ones, and the urge to sustain yourself.
The urge, to stay alive with food.
Right, yeah.
Are you an emotional eater?
No, I'm just an eater.
I'm just an eater because I totally am an emotional eater.
Oh, well, no, I'm an emotional cooker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've had nights where I couldn't sleep and I was depressed and things like that, and I would just pace around the house. And there was a night fairly recently where I was like, I think I have everything here to make pierogies.
Whoa!
So I'm gonna do that. And it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm making pierogies from scratch. Like the dough, I'm making the filling, and like I make a month's worth of food.
Wow!
Because I just that's how I cope, essentially.
So that's one of the okay. So like maybe that's a good transition into how we cope. So
and it's nice too because especially cooking is this way to not only maintain your mental health but also maintain your physical health. Because I know when I go through psychological strife, I often forget to eat. Or
my
diet suffers really bad.
I find with me, if I go through something and I'm really, really sad or like really depressed, I'm either eating the worst things ever or not eating at all.
Yeah.
Like it's one or the other. It's never a healthy balance.
There's that whole idea of, better than eating nothing, so I'm just gonna plow whatever I can get my hands on into my face. First
thing I ate after a really bad breakup I went through was poutine. I think I didn't eat for 3 days.
I live off that shit.
Poutine.
And then, like, just having a straight-up liquid diet. Like, there have been days where I just fucking just drank beer for 2 days. Beer and coffee. Like, just straight-up liquid diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to... Okay, like, this is where we'll probably get into the booze talk, because I used to drink very destructively.
Yeah.
Like, I would be pissed and, like I'm stressed from work or I'm pissed off at something, and I would drink, and I would become such a fucking terrible person when I drank. Like, I would lash out at my friends.
Oof.
And, like, purposely, like, try to make them feel shitty about stuff.
Yeah.
And these people I fucking love.
Oh, yeah, no.
These are people I love, and I would lash out.
I've done it, too. I lived with my little sister for a while here in Halifax. She's got a beautiful child now, and she's got a house out in St. Peter's, and she's got a great life. And I really regret times when I drank way too much and said some really hurtful shit. And sucks, you realize you have to grow as a person when you're like, you look back and you're like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, this person did nothing but love me. Right. And yeah, it was maybe frustrating at times, but, you know, I had no right to say those things. Yeah. And alcohol, it's a very difficult thing. I work at a local brewery too, so like my access to booze is just unprecedented. And it's part of, and you would agree as well, like it's part of the service industry that when you're done, you have a drink. Yeah. That's just like, I dated someone who worked at a late night establishment in Halifax. And when we were together, I was not a big drinker, but he would be drinking almost every single time. Oh yeah, I didn't like that at first. I worked in a kitchen in a dive bar. I worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week sometimes, and like my kitchen manager had a bit of a drug problem, and like we would regularly get 2 8-packs of Bud, throw them in the freezer, and drink them over the course of a shift, and like it was functional drug addiction. You know,
that's what it is, because you don't realize it's a problem, really, because you're just doing it every day, and it's just and you get used to it, and it's normal for you. Like, but me as someone who was dating someone like with that, I was just like, Jesus Christ! Like, you're coming home on a Wednesday night, like peeing in my closet. Like, what's happening?
Oh no!
Like, and I didn't get it, but I do know that it is part of the industry. And
yeah, but it's not something that we should normalize. And I think this particular generation, like our age, we've come to normalize that behavior a lot. When I
big time,
I had a laugh because I was sitting in the bar that I work at earlier, and I mentioned that I was going to be on this podcast and what we were going to be talking about. And I said, yeah, we're going to be talking about, you know, maybe a little bit of like, stress and anxiety and depression among people our age and how we deal with it. And the bartender there went, we don't. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of the point, is that we don't.
We really don't.
Most of us don't
it's
have
avoidance.
Function. Yeah. You know, most of us don't have functional outlets. And when we do, it's not enough. So we avoid the rest.
So true.
It's fucked up.
Ding, ding. I could not agree more. Like, I used to just, and especially with the alcohol thing, like, I used to drink to feel better all the time. And what I realized was, that is not the way to do it. When I'm pissed, emotional, or, like, any negative emotion, if I put booze in me, times that by 10. And that's what you will get out of me. Right. I actually went to AA. Oh, wow. At one point in my life, because...
Oh, believe me, I've considered it.
You know
I had some legal trouble back like a few years ago, and it was rough.
Shit.
I'm still not sure I can get across the border to the U.S. Like,
whoa!
Oh yeah, no, it was all alcohol related too. It was fucked up.
Fuck.
I never once went there though. Never.
It's one of those things. Like, I look back at that time in my life, and I'm like, that was the worst fucking time in my life. Like, I had a very bad experience with a guy. Listen to the S2 episode. Really bad experience with a guy. I was lashing out at my friends. I was like getting drunk all the time. Like, I really hated my day job. Like, really, really hated it. Like, was really not fulfilled in any way, shape, or form in my life. And I was just drinking and then like pissing off my friends. Then my friends were like, fuck this. And then like I was losing people in my life. And I was just like, it was just a spiral. And there was one night in particular that like I left a party really pissed, and I went to the 24-hour superstore on Barrington Street and was hammered and was just like, everything was crashing down on me. Like, I was just like, what is happening here? Like, why am I doing this? Why? This is ridiculous. And I called a friend.
This is like an existential crisis.
It was.
The ice cream aisle.
I was actually like, I was in the 24-hour superstore, like just walking the aisles, and I was like up by the bathroom, found an outlet for my phone and was charging my phone there, just being like, can you please come pick? And it was a friend that I had known was sober. And he came and got me, and we went to Freeman's actually and drank coffee at 5 a.m. And he's like, this is what we're going to do. Like, you're gonna rest. And like, he's like, you should maybe like just think about, he's like, I don't think you're an alcoholic, but I think you are a destructive drinker, and you might have a problem.
Right. Yeah, there's a difference between being an alcoholic and having an alcohol abuse problem.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so he's like, like, if you want to go to a meeting, I'll go with you. And might be good for some perspective. Right. And I went, and like, I just gotta say, I'm not a religious person. I know that there's like a religious aspect to it. I got very emotional when I went because you go in and everyone's just like, thank you so much for coming. Like, good job in coming. And like, it's like this environment of like, you did a good thing and just walking through these doors.
Right. You have to be hyper supportive. It's that kind of,
it's unreal
environment. Yeah.
And then like, like I didn't talk or anything. I just listened.
Right.
And then I realized, I'm like, Jesus Christ, Sarah, like the problems you have are nothing in comparison to what these people have gone through in their lives.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I walked, and like I still have the coin, and I still look at it every now and then because and it just says like one day at a time or whatever, and I still look at it because I'm just like, that was the worst time of my life, and that was when I realized I cannot drink when I'm pissed. It's just not good for me. I even stopped myself last weekend when I found myself getting pissed, and I was out drinking, and I was with a friend, and I looked at the drink and I said, I have to stop and go home now.
Right.
Because if I don't, and if you don't take my phone away from me, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off.
I'm lucky. I have this weird reflex where I get to a certain level of drunk.
Yes.
And then just kind of like get up from the table like the Manchurian Candidate and just walk out the fucking door.
Irish goodbye.
Yeah, and people are like, where the fuck did you go? I was like, I just went straight home and fell asleep with my socks on. Like, that's, my body was just like, get the fuck out of here.
So are you someone who gets emotional when you drink? Or like gets, like, what kind of drunk are you? I don't think I've ever seen you drunk.
Oh, you
Let's
definitely
change that.
have.
Have I?
Most people don't know.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a big problem.
Ooh.
I've had people just be like, no, I thought you were fine. You were super cool. And I was fucking straight blacked out. Like, I can lose 2-3 hours, and people are like, no, you were great. We were just hanging out, and you were funny, and like, it was great.
Whoa!
And I'm just fucking lights on, nobody home.
I know a lot of people like that, though. Like, the next day, they'll be like, I was so drunk, and I was just like, you seem fine.
Which, I mean, it's scary, too, because then it becomes, like, am I in functional alcoholism territory? Like, is that... You gotta watch it a lot.
You really do.
Yeah. But, I tend to be very gladly, I'm not an emotional drunk. I'm a jovial one. I always picture myself as like a Falstaff. I become jocular and strange and maybe a little too overly affectionate. Like, yeah.
That sounds fun, though.
Right, yeah. And again, kind of dangerous. Where, like, I'm super shit-faced, and I was like, yeah, but you were all out of fun. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm killing myself.
No.
Right?
Oh, my God. It's so tricky. It really...
Isn't it?
Booze is a tricky... And, like, talking from a drunk podcast where the whole show's based around... drinking, but it's just it took me a long time to get it in check.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because I think where we come from, it's part of the culture. Mm-hmm. It's just I come from a family of drinkers. I come from a community where it's just, that's what you did to have fun. That's what you did when there was more than 5 people in a room,
part of the Canadian culture in general.
Yeah, we have a massive problem with binge drinking.
Yeah.
And it certainly doesn't help mental health in general, and we also have a shit mental health. There's no help for people, essentially, and so we really have to learn to self-regulate, I think.
Yes.
And as young people, I know folks who they run businesses that are aimed at wellness, that flotation centers, Reiki masters, massage therapists, and these people are fucking highly stressed. even people in the wellness business, as young people in this day and age, have a hard time dealing with their own stress.
Yes, it's so...
Yeah, it's pervasive. I think there's a reason that like suicide rates are skyrocketing, because it's hard to pinpoint any one cause, but like Nazis are back. That's great. The housing market still sucks. A friend of mine recently she turned to me and she was filling out all this paperwork. She seemed frustrated. She goes, "Oh my God, Patrick, have you ever bought a new car?" I looked at her and I said, "Robin, I've never bought a fucking new couch." I don't know.
Thank you! I don't understand where people find money. Are they just finding it from the ground? Because I don't know about you, but like I look at people in my life and I'm like, and I hate this because I hate that money is such a thing that you like stress. I mean, money is the biggest stress in my life anyway.
Yeah.
But like you look at people who like have things that like houses, cars, coaches, and you're like, we make maybe around the same amount of money. Maybe our expenses are kind of similar. It's like, how are you buying this? You know?
I don't know.
That's just what I always think about.
A lot of the folks that I know who have those things tend to be in pretty dedicated relationships. So you're splitting the difference kind of thing. It'd be nice.
Right.
I kind of made myself persona non grata in the dating pool probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Well, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, I don't really know if this is for me. I don't really think, like, I've decided to isolate myself in the effort to maybe learn more about myself. And get to a place where I could possibly do that. But I think the longer I do it, the more I'm just like, well, no, it's not for me. So it becomes this really weird place where you're like, am I going to have to exist by myself for the rest of my life?
Oh
like,
my God, thank you.
Right.
Thank you for saying that. I think about that all the time.
Well, marriage is the thing that it's kind of going by the wayside. Marriage statistics are down massively. Yeah. Divorce is up crazily.
What are the stats on divorce right now?
I'm not sure.
I mean,
but you see a lot of visible rise in things like polyamory.
Yeah.
But how does one function and create a household and share bank accounts and stuff in a polyamorous relationship? I really honestly would have loved to talk to Jeremy about that when I was on Turn Me On, and it never really occurred to me. I'm sure they have an episode about it. I should probably dig
Jeremy,
it up.
Come on, Intoxicated.
You want to tell me how to make that shit work?
Turn Me On, Intoxicated. Still waiting on that. Would fucking love to ask you guys all the polyamory questions. But, no, I totally freaking agree. I'm always thinking, I'm just like, I would be so much richer if, like, my rent was literally cut in half. All my bills were cut in half. Like, I wouldn't be wasting food. I know that's a weird thing to say.
No, not
but like
at all.
I cook and then I eat it and I'm like, I'm done with this. And I will literally call my male friends over and be like, do you want to just eat the rest of my pizza?
Right.
You want to just do that for me?
I bought a loaf of bread.
Yes!
Last week, I ate like 4 pieces of it.
Okay, so we should probably eat together more.
Yeah.
We live close enough.
And like I love cooking for people. I just don't do it because usually my apartment's kind of a mess. It's just, story of my fucking life.
I'm the same. Yeah, I only cook when I'm cooking for somebody.
Yeah.
Or like have a friend over.
Luckily, I've got an appointment with my doctor on the 7th to get like proper medication for my somewhat recently diagnosed ADHD.
Oh.
I was taking like the cheap generic brand methylphenidate, which is just like essentially Ritalin kind of thing.
Right.
But it's, the cheap generic brand Ritalin is basically like doing backyard meth. You get shaky and sweaty and you don't eat and you jittery kind of thing. I'm like, give me the expensive stuff. I need the good shit now that I've got medical coverage. Yes. And like, and that's the thing. At the time, I didn't have medical coverage, so I was like, give me $20 a month of whatever bullshit you can.
Right?
Yeah. Basically, just sell me crack rock. That's fine.
I don't have benefits right now, and I'm like trying to get on birth control, and that's real hard to do. Turns out I'm too stressed out for birth control. Okay.
Jesus.
I had my blood pressure. Okay, so I went in for in all fairness, a cervical biopsy, which was very stressful and not a fun experience.
Any kind of biopsy in general.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Let alone one where they have to go through your junk.
What's worse is that like they're like, this is so normal, and like there's a 95% chance that you're fine, but like we're just gonna look. And I'm just like, I would almost rather there be a higher chance that I have cancer that I'm going through this than just like that it's just a normal thing to do, because it's so it's so uncomfortable and painful that you're just thinking like, is this better be worth it? Oh God, that's terrible to think. But
better get a goddamn lollipop.
It's an uncomfortable experience. But like when I was done, I had a doctor in front of me, and I don't have a family doctor in Halifax. And I was like,
most of us don't.
Hey, can you give me the pill? I've been off it for a while, but I'm thinking about going back on it. And she was like, yeah, we can probably do that, but I'll have to take your blood pressure. And she took it, and she's like, it's actually technically too high for us to give you the pill. And I was like, well, that might have something to do with the fact that you just, like, cut up my cervix. Like, I'm a little stressed. Come on.
Violated by medical instruments.
Trying not to get pregnant here.
Yeah, you want to give me, like, 25 minutes to chill out?
Right? And they did
back?
give me some time, like 5 or 10 minutes. And I look up at the ceiling, and there's a sign that says, like, I don't even know. It was, like, some inspirational quote on the ceiling. And I just had to laugh because I was just like, this is ridiculous. But, yeah. Turns out I'm too stressed out for birth control.
I just imagine, like, the cat hanging on a clothesline.
Yeah, something like that.
Come on.
Yeah, it was like, believe in yourself or something. Like, I don't even know.
Hang
I was
in
just
there.
like, fuck, medication. I've never been on any type of, like, medication other than birth control. I've never been on, like, I'm convinced I have ADHD. But, like, I don't want to be one of those people who's like, I have it.
It took me, like, a decade to actually get a diagnosis.
God damn.
At least, yeah.
God damn.
And before that, I was working at a job I fucking hated, so I was on this absolute carousel of antidepressants, sleeping pills, anti-anxiety pills.
Oh,
like, there was one time in my life I was on Cipralex, I was on Wellbutrin, Zopiclone for sleep, I was on clonazepam for anxiety. Just fucking
all at once,
hardcore medicated. Yeah.
So did you find that just made you a total?
No, I mean it just turns you into a baseline essentially.
Right.
You turn into a grayscale human being.
God damn.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it makes it a little easier to weather the storm. Like, it's nice to not be crippled by anxiety attacks where your hands go numb and you start freaking out. You think you're having a heart attack and you have to, like, leave. Like, I've gone to the emergency room multiple times. I once had a paramedic with basically with post-traumatic stress be like, oh no, this is an anxiety attack. Like, I take these all the time. Like, I know what this feels like. Shit. Yeah, I've gone in for multiple EKGs to make sure my heart's okay, because I'm like, I take anxiety attacks so bad that I feel like I can't breathe, and
right.
Yeah. They've become a little more rare over the past year or so.
Yeah, same.
I was working a really shit job.
I think
for a while.
so much of it is working a super stressful, shitty job.
Yeah,
will be like the worst thing ever for anxiety.
It wasn't so much the job. It was just the nature of the job, in that it made me feel like there was that cognitive dissonance there. Like, there was the person I wanted to be and that I pictured myself as, and then there was the reality of me going into this fucking mind-numbing, white-walled cubicle job day in, day out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the straw that broke the camel's back was this representative from RBC, like this 60-year-old white woman came in and rewarded me for doing something that I was doing simply out of boredom. We're like revamping standards of practice documents because there was no hot links, and they're like,
right.
I had to teach a class on how to use keyboard shortcuts because the median age at this place was like 45, 50. So I was this like wonderkind.
Oh my God.
And she came in and gave me this, it was like a $30 gift card for Tim Hortons or whatever bullshit. And I held out my hand for the handshake. Because I was like, oh, thank you. And I held out my hand for a handshake. And she came in for a hug. And I immediately just stood stock stiff. Like, I was like, what is going on right now? I hate you.
Oh my
Please
God.
let go of me. And I looked around and everyone in the room was just, they saw how awkward it was and how uncomfortable I was. And I asked someone later on, I was like, was that as awkward as it felt? And she was like, 10 times worse. Like,
my God. Probably, worse watching.
Yeah, because part of me was just like, don't touch me. Please don't touch me. And when you're working in one of those places with like a really robust HR staff and, really strict guidelines of workplace conduct. It's like, it's fuck you, don't hug me.
Right?
Right?
And did you kind of feel like in that job, like that you were a number and not a person?
What it was I became a prop in a play, you know?
Yeah.
To have this person hug me wasn't so much because they cared about me. It was because they wanted other people to see them act like a caring person.
Oh, we have employee morale. We hug our employees.
Yeah, I became a prop in this weird play that I wanted no part of. And so immediately my brain was just like, fuck this entire place. It's all a lie. You know, this is...
Yep.
And so I started taking anxiety attacks because I was like, I can't believe I'm still here. I can't believe I'm pretending to give a shit about any of these people. You know...
It's so hard.
Yeah, it was fucking bizarre. It was weird. And I had a lot of my family, like, it was a good job, it paid well, good benefits and whatever.
Right.
And you have a lot of people from the baby boomer generation just going, well, it's a good job, it's good pay, stick with it, you know.
You have all these things, just ignore all the bad stuff.
Right, just forget about all that. I'm like, no, fuck that.
Well, that's how they get you to, that's how they suck people into staying, right? Like, these companies, well, like, they'll give you really good benefits. They'll give you some perks. They'll give you Tim Hortons gift cards. They'll give you hugs. Like, they're doing this because they want you to fucking stick around.
Most of the people there had families, you know. They needed stability. They needed the regularity. They needed
structure.
And they needed to do something that didn't really require much technical skill. It was all, like... Most of the people there were trained in HR, and like the managers were very, you know, people oriented and whatever. But it was all just like mediocrity. It was all just middle of the road. About a year.
Yeah. It's the fucking worst. Like when you are not, and don't get me wrong, like almost every single job is not perfect, but when you are that unhappy in your job, it really can take a toll on you.
Yeah, I swore to myself that I would never go back to working a job that wasn't for like a small local business.
Right.
Because they sacrifice more to have good people.
Yes.
And, you know, they'll do their best to take care of you, and you can feel every day like you're part of a development, you know, part of a community, things like that. The days of working as a Walmart greeter or, you know, working in a cubicle, I think a lot of people under like 35, 30 are getting really disillusioned by it.
Oh my God.
I mean, because you see people making a living on Etsy. You see people making a living just through YouTube ads, you know? There's
side hustles.
So many opportunities for entrepreneurship these days.
Oh my God.
Thanks to the internet. I mean... So
fucking true, though. So yeah, you make a great point about that. Because I never used to consider myself like someone who would start a business. I started working for an entrepreneurship center, so that kind of helped.
Yeah, there you go.
I was seeing all these little startups come up. But like even just having the show has like made me entrepreneurial in a way. So it's less about like it's less about I need to find a day job that's pays me well. It's more like I need to find a day job that I like enough, and then I should really focus on my side hustle and try to make some money off of that.
Yeah. You gotta,
it's entrepreneurial.
Yeah. It's all about balance. Yeah,
I think more people are entrepreneurial than they think.
Yeah, you know, when you're trying to make money off of a passion or something creative or whatever, yeah, that's an entrepreneurial spirit.
I mean, like cam girls are entrepreneurial.
That is absolutely true, and that's a huge business. And not only cam girls, but then you have websites like, I can't remember the name of them right now, but like you essentially just create, it's basically Etsy for porn videos that you make yourself.
Oh!
Yeah.
Like solo ones?
I mean, whatever. You just, it's...
Asking for a friend.
Well, yeah, no, it's just you create porn videos by yourself, like you, or with you and
whichever
your production crew or whatever the fuck.
Production crew.
You know, stunt dick.
You want in, Pat? Let's do this. Let's make some porns.
Wouldn't be the first.
Really? Wait, what? This is taking a turn. I'm uncovering things that I never thought I would with Pat.
I don't know. What can I say? I like to show off.
Too funny.
Yeah, I know.
The film background must be interesting when you're watching porn.
Right?
Do you like
I'm
analyze
just like,
porn?
who the fuck lit this?
Like, do you honestly think about that when you're watching porn?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah? Like things like the production
Yeah,
aspect of it?
like who fucking edited this? Like, why would you put that shot there? That doesn't cut right, and also awkward.
Yeah. Angles, lighting.
Yeah. I'm just like, I could do this.
The sets are always the same. They're always like on a white couch.
Well, it depends on the genre. So, if it's gonzo porn and being in the same set is kind of like, well, this is the house where it all happens. It's going to happen there. Like the casting couch is like iconic.
Oh my
fucking,
god.
Like,
that fucking couch.
I know, right? Everybody knows that fucking couch.
How often do they clean that thing? A lot, I hope.
Yeah, it's a different couch every week. I just burned the last one.
But hey, if we need a new couch, maybe they'll sell it to us for cheap.
Just cover it in saran wrap. It's fine.
Honestly, like you bringing up that coach comment actually speaks to my soul.
I know.
Because when I hear of friends buying couches, I go, "Where'd you get that money?" Like, what?
I got a new couch. I'm like, motherfucker. Like,
this couch is from the breakup that I had. It was his couch, and I inherited it.
I've never had a new piece of furniture in my life. It's all been hand me down. Oh yeah. Like I bought it from the previous tenant, or I got it at a yard sale, or I got it at fucking Wise Buys or some shit. Yeah, it's from a secondhand store. It's like not even IKEA furniture. I can't even afford new IKEA furniture.
And it's pretty cheap, but yeah, I see what you mean. Like even when I look at IKEA stuff, I'm like, I still have to save a bit. Like it's not.
Right, yeah.
I don't
it's
just
like,
have that money.
$200-$300 to drop. Are you out of your fucking mind?
It's insane. Fuck. One day we're gonna be really rich with our porns that we'll make. Combined forces.
That's right. Collaboration. The spirit of collaboration.
Oh man, let's take what I like to call an intoxicated, a very hard turn into Sad Town. Because we were going to talk about mental health stuff.
Sure.
What? There's no eloquent way for me to say this. What makes you sad? That's a dumb question. I guess more what I'm asking is you said that you have ADHD, you deal with anxiety and depression. When did all of this start for you? Like, was this something that started early in life? Like,
oh, yeah.
Because of the bullying, right?
Well, no, maybe not because of the bullying, but like I just have an ability to see the ugly side of things.
Yeah.
When you're observant, when you're empathetic, when you like I don't shy away from the shitty stuff, and like I've had people I've even had therapists look at me and go, well, why don't you not think about that? I'm like,
oh really?
Am I paying you $200 an hour to tell me maybe don't do that? Like, fuck you.
And also you can't tell someone just not to think about something.
How about you just not think about that?
Did you
like I understand that you grew up in a well-to-do white family and probably had your whole fucking university education paid for, but like, yeah, no, I don't have the luxury to just not think about that.
Right.
And something really stuck with me. I'm a big movie buff, and one of my favorite books of all time is Akira Kurosawa's Something Like an Autobiography. It's his autobiography, but it talks about his childhood up to when he started working in movies. And his childhood was pretty brutal. Like, Japan in that time, in the early 1900s, was very strict. It was still very regimented and very repressed. People weren't, especially men, weren't. It was very frowned upon for them to express themselves through anger and through sadness and whatnot. And Kurosawa was apparently a very emotional kid. You know, he cried a lot and would take these tantrums and whatnot. Which I kind of identified with, and he was called gifted, which I was, which I think did more damage than anything else in my childhood. Being called gifted and being told that you're like exceptional, it was very damaging to
because you skipped the grade.
Well, yeah.
So,
and I mean, I tell people all the time, it's like, yeah, I was called gifted in Cape Breton. It's like top of the turd pile, right? And what really stuck with me in the book was there's this passage when he talks about his older brother taking him out after the Great Kanto earthquake. And this was an earthquake that killed hundreds, maybe thousands of people. And they were walking down this bridge that they had walked by countless times, and they were looking over the river, and there were dead bodies just floating down the river. And Kurosawa at this point started to cry. He started to freak out a little bit, and his brother forced him to look at it. And in the book, he says that at that point he realized that being an artist means never having to avert your eyes, never having to look away. And that has stuck with me in that, like, I might be depressed and I might be anxious and I might have a really difficult time with stuff, but I'd rather do that than not look at it.
Yeah.
Than to be one of those people who just doesn't understand it and kind of goes through life ignorant of that.
So true.
I'll absolutely take being depressed and rational over being ignorant and happy.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Do you watch Black Mirror?
I do. I love Black Mirror. I'm a big fan of science fiction on all levels.
So, like, that episode, I don't know, did you watch the most recent season
All
of Black
of them,
Mirror?
yeah.
So, like, Archangel kind of touches on that. Like, the whole, it's the one where the parent controls what the girl can and cannot see.
Right, yeah. The censorship thing.
Yeah, that was a fascinating one.
Because it drives kids to want to experience those things. If you don't show someone something, they're going to be even more curious.
Yeah, and which is interesting because I feel like nowadays, especially in like media and like TV and movies and all this, like, for example, the show 13 Reasons Why, like, that has a graphic depiction of suicide in the show, and a lot of people are like, that shouldn't be on there. They shouldn't have put that in there. And I'm just kind of on the fence of like, well, this is what it is. Like, this is what is actually happening.
And that's the attitude that I really hate with this day and age. Like, censorship has gone to another level, and now you have people arguing on both sides that, you shouldn't be able to say this, you shouldn't be able to say that, you shouldn't be able to do this. And you have artists kind of in the middle being like, I want everyone to experience what this is and not be blind to it. So if you have people saying like, I don't want to see suicide, that's triggering to me. And it's like, it should fucking be triggering.
Absolutely.
It's horrifying.
Yes.
And you have to learn how to deal with that and not just say, I don't want to see that. It triggers me.
Because you're not always going to be able to control that.
Right.
Something might come up and happen that, like, you're going to have to see it.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from the disconnectedness that we have from the internet culture. Is that we can experience things and be so distant from them that it never really affects us personally, and we can choose what we want to see and what not to see. But in real life, we don't have that option. You might say, like, I experienced this and I never want to see it again. So you saying it on the internet, I'm angry and think you shouldn't be able to do that. And it's like, well, no, just because you experienced it and you don't want to experience it again doesn't mean you can just turn it off. So when you're watching media, when you're, reading a book, when you're, you went through this awful thing, and you should be trying to connect with other people who saw those awful things or have experienced them, and you should be using your experience to enrich other people's lives instead of saying, I'm triggered, I don't want to see this, I don't think anyone should ever joke.
Yes. 100%. And the censorship thing as well, I feel like it's reached a point where it's like people are trying to ban stuff now. Like, there's a new show, I read about it, called like Insatiable or something like that. It's like on Netflix, and it's like portraying like a larger woman or whatever, and like people said it was fat shaming, and like it shouldn't be on Netflix. Ban it. And it's just like, if that's triggering for people who have eating disorders, okay, like, don't watch it, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
But don't ban it for other people not to watch it.
It's modern book burning is what it is.
Yeah. It's fucked.
And if I was to suggest that we burn every book with depictions of, I don't know, the military, because I don't agree with, I'm a pacifist. I don't agree with the military, so let's burn every book ever that described combat. You know? But I've read And No Birds Sang by Farley Mowat. I've read The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. I've read countless Hemingway novels, and like being able to experience those things vicariously through someone who experienced them directly. And I say that, but technically Stephen Crane never experienced the Civil War. He just made a very astute depiction of it. But yeah, refusing to learn from those people when they're trying desperately to show the world how complex and meaningful these things are is a disrespect to all the people who've gone through it before,
So true.
If you have an artist that experienced sexual assault, say, and they try to express it in a way that depicts sexual assault, and you have people crying for it to be banned,
Or
then
taken down, or
then you're essentially gutting that person's entire life's work.
So true.
Yeah, you're making their experience meaningless, which is horrifying to me.
Yeah, and like on the other end, like I do understand the triggering. Like when we did the Us 2 episode, like I did one for the podcast, and it was 4 different women coming from 4 different experiences, all of which were non-consensual experiences, varying levels of that,
right?
All very bad. But like in the intro, I was just like, yeah, if you're like, don't listen if you can't.
Right, you have to give people the option.
You have to give people the option, yeah.
Right.
And the thing is like, if you're finding yourself triggered by a lot of things, I feel like you should maybe get some help. Like,
Well, yeah.
I feel like maybe you should investigate that a little further.
Well, and I think that kind of naturally comes to the issues of mental health.
Yeah.
And taking care of that and access to mental health among young people or among Canadians or Americans at large. Like there's a massive epidemic.
Yeah.
And so people choose to just disengage instead of facing it in healthy ways because they don't really have options to do so, which again is terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, I guess I was kind of born with the mental faculties to deal with it. And I still, to this day, like I come off as cold sometimes. I come off as, yeah. I mean, I'll say things to people in all honesty and they'll say, well, you're being mean to me, or that is really sad. Like that makes me really sad. And I wish you hadn't said that and all this stuff. And I'm just like, well, I'm just trying to express myself honestly.
Right. You're just being real.
Yeah. And my worldview is, a little bit cynical, I guess, in a lot of ways. But I think there's a lot to be said about engaging that head on, because if you're ready to talk about it and say like, okay, like that is sad, but like let's talk about it and maybe make a joke about it or whatever,
Right.
then sure, like that's what was it John Cleese said, I think, from Monty Python, if you're gonna tell people the truth, dear God, make them laugh or else they'll kill you.
So true, though. It's so true.
Yeah.
Because you made a comment like earlier when we were just kind of chit-chatting beforehand, like that you were making dead mom. Like, so your mom passed away.
Yeah, December 2nd of last year.
So sorry about that. But you said that you used humor, like you were making
all the
jokes.
time, yeah.
How long after?
Oh God, weeks.
So what was that? I know that you touched on this on Turn Me On, but what was that experience like? Like, I still, and this is a podcast for another time, Sarah, I have a obsession with death, and that I'm absolutely terrified and fascinated by it in a weird way. I don't know how I would ever deal with something like that.
Well, yeah, I'm lucky because I was prepared by the amount that I read. I read a lot, and specifically Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, a lot of these great Romans, and the idea behind Stoicism. A lot of people think Stoic as being this stone wall, unfeeling and unflinching, but really at the heart of it, Stoicism is about letting something affect you and then pass through you and realizing what is good and what is bad, what you can control, what you can control, and then dealing with it from there.
Right.
So I would step back day to day and think, okay, well, this is what's happening. This is what could happen. This is what I can affect. This is what I can do. I got to try and do what I can do. And if these other things happen, well, they're going to happen. And the Stoics viewed death as natural as birth. It's a natural part of everything.
Oh my God.
Everything
So
dies.
scary. Yeah, I don't like it.
It's fine.
Yeah.
They say that anything so natural can't be harmful. It can't be bad. It's as natural as birth. Why? They're not even two different things. They're the exact same thing.
Uh-huh.
The start and cessation of life are essentially two things that are needed to encompass a life. If
Lightning
something
Crashes by the band Live is all about that.
There you go. If something were to be born and never die, it would be unnatural.
Yeah.
If something
it's not.
If something were to die and rise again, it would be unnatural. So these two things are perfectly natural, so why be afraid of them?
You're totally right. And I don't know why I'm terrified.
It's the human condition, we can't really conceive of non-existence.
Yeah, it's so true.
And I got to talk with my mother a lot, which was great. She had a bone marrow transplant. It was myelodysplastic syndrome, a precursor to a very serious type of bone cancer. So it was necessary that she have a bone marrow transplant. And she came to Halifax and was preparing for the transplant, which meant a lot of heavy radiation. They had to destroy her entire immune system, blast her bone marrow to nothing, and ultimately that was what killed her, was the radiation treatment.
Shut up, seriously?
Yeah, the bone marrow transplant was actually successful, but it destroyed her lungs in the process. So it was bittersweet in that respect, but I'm thankful because I got to spend so much time with her in the weeks leading up to it. And we got to talk a lot. And I learned, essentially, it bettered my life in a lot of ways because my brother and father got into a fist fight the morning that my mother went from Cape Breton to Halifax because they both didn't really know how to deal with their emotions. They both come from a very egocentric, male-oriented place. They have that real energy. And they've always had a lot of animus between them. My brother is my half-brother, so not my father's son, essentially. Okay. So it's a complicated situation, but they got physically violent that morning. And I remember being in a room and screaming at the two of them and talking down to them like I was a school principal. Like I was talking to them as if, from a place of authority. And that was really meaningful for me because I wouldn't have had the opportunity.
Right.
Luckily, I was prepared to deal with this kind of stuff because I had immersed myself in very depressing, for lack of a better term, very real literature. I'd read Crime and Punishment. I'd read a lot of Albert Camus. I've read existentialism. I've read Stoicism, philosophy. And while I didn't really feel I understood it, I'd never taken classes on it or whatever, it prepared me best to deal with this kind of stuff. And it made her very proud of me to do that, to stand up and get angry and talk down to these people who had this authority over my life prior.
Right.
And yeah.
You're standing up.
Yeah.
You're doing something about it.
So I have to take those positive things from that experience, in that it helped me grow as a person.
Gosh, I can imagine.
Well, yeah, you have to find the good in everything, and
it's real
being
hard.
able to view death as perfectly natural, as a natural process. Really, it's the only reason I'm not in a heap, and because I had a great set of coworkers and a great job where I was surrounded with very supportive people who
so important.
This small town brewery that I work at with very tight knit community,
like a family.
Yeah. And so I count myself lucky. Most people don't have that opportunity.
Were you someone who talked, when that happened, the grieving process? Did you talk about it a lot, or was it more of you were going through this and you had support, but did you actually talk about it and how you were feeling in an honest way, or was it more of something that you were dealing with and you just had these people around you kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. No, I would never shy away from it. I don't shy away from talking about anything, really.
Yeah.
I think being candid is the only way to live life. I don't understand people who just like, no, I don't want to talk about that. It's like, I get it, sure, if that's... But I've found it very enriching to my life to just be able to talk to anyone about anything. And if anything, I find my life far more robust because I speak to people. And that's why I've been on so many of the podcasts in Halifax, why I had one. And you know, for one reason or another, people tend to enjoy listening to me, which is nice.
I'm just like enthralled right now.
I really like reading to people is something that nobody does. So yeah, I'm trying to bring that back.
You should.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate reading. I'm a shit reader.
Well,
you can read to me
have you ever
anytime you
sat
want.
in a room where, you know, someone was reading a book and you're just kind of like farting around doing something?
I mean, like, that's, in my mind, that's what a podcast or an audiobook would be.
Yeah, I'll often look up and be like, well, can I just read out loud? And they're like,
you should
yeah,
try to be like someone who reads audiobooks and like records them.
I did that for a while, actually.
What the fuck? Seriously?
Well, you remember Josh McPhail? We went to school
Yes,
with him?
Josh!
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, if you're listening.
when I was living with him, he got really into H.P. Lovecraft for a while, so I would read H.P. Lovecraft short stories, and he would put in sound effects and like do all the sound engineering, and we were going to turn that into a podcast, and we recorded like 3 episodes, but it never really got anywhere.
Oh, make it happen!
Just like everything else Josh and I ever did. Like we were just like ne'er-do-wells.
Damn, I couldn't agree more about the whole talking thing, though. Like, and I think both of us, this comes natural to us talking. My
cheaper
worry,
than therapy, I'm telling you.
This is intoxicated therapy for you guys. My worry is that these people, and like in particular men, who feel they can't because of the whole, ooh, it's not manly, or you're not a man if you talk and cry. Like the crying thing is huge.
Well, and it's such a fucked up situation where I've had moments in my life where I'm just like, I'll cry, but if there's another guy in the room who makes fun of me for it, I'll also punch him in the mouth. So it's just like, what's masculinity to you? You know, is it repressing yourself?
That's
the masculinity I've found is confidence, is being able to defend other people who are weaker than you. You know, it's to be a champion of really things that you believe in, and to be firm in your beliefs, and be unswayed. And it's got little to do with gender roles.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the biggest mistake is. Like, that's not manly because that's a thing that girls do. It's like, fuck off.
And this is my thing. Like, I'm friends with so many guys, and I just over the years have been making a point to check in with friends, and like we talked about this earlier, the idea of checking in. And because I do see, in particular, males, and it's not just males, but in particular, purposely not talking about stuff because they, and some of them have told me it's because I don't want to feel like less of a man. And I don't know the way around this. And I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with that, you know, like.
What I would tell all of those men is that really all it comes down to is how confident are you in how you live your life, and why are you so concerned with what other people are going to think of you? If it makes you feel like less of a man, then that's maybe just change the goalposts. Maybe just reevaluate what being a man is to you, and inspect where those ideas came from in the first place. I think that's what most people don't do.
100%.
Yeah. In that, like, that's going to make me feel like less of a man. Okay, well, why would that make you... Oh, well, because that's what girls do. And you're like, well, then open up your idea of what a man is, you know?
Why is the fact that girls are doing that, why does that make it weak?
Yeah.
You know, as well. Like, it's like,
define weakness.
Maybe
those are all
girls,
relative terms.
Yeah, we're socialized to cry. Like, it's a normal thing for us to cry.
Yeah.
Because we're socialized as
socialization,
emotional people.
That's a good point in that, like, this is what society deems to be manly. Well, when the fuck has society steered me in the right direction?
And, like, and this sounds weird, but, like, when I see a guy really embrace and admit to his emotions and go there, I breathe a sigh of relief.
Well,
and
yeah,
I
like,
know that sounds weird, but I get really nervous, and I've had it happen with, like, close friends where it's like they're freaking out and they're yelling and they're raising their voice at me and they're getting, like, very, like, in my face, and they're saying I'm not angry, and I'm just thinking, like, oh my God.
Right, like, you don't
like,
even know.
you can't even admit that this is anger.
Right,
it's okay
yeah.
to be angry.
Yeah.
I'm angry all the time.
Yeah, but it's a lack of self-awareness.
Exactly.
And
it's so scary.
yeah, it can be terrifying. And men don't really realize. And Margaret Atwood said, and I love this. I think the quote was, "Men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that men will kill them."
Yes, that's so true.
Right, and men don't realize that. Like, you're angry and you feel entitled to that, and you feel damaged and like you're not a man, and it's like, that's all you, man.
And
like, that's all you.
And the worst part of that is that if you're a woman and you do get a little bit scared by somebody, a male in your life, and you express that, you're overreacting.
Right. Yeah.
And that's
you're hysterical.
That's a big problem. And so, like, I don't even, and I wish I knew a solution to this. I wish therapy was cheaper. I wish it was available to everybody.
Right. Because
I genuinely think, and maybe you can speak to your experience in therapy, but, like, there's not a person in my life that couldn't benefit from it. Like, everyone can benefit from it.
I just think more men should be open to pegging. Like, just fucking, just change your fucking perspective for 10 minutes.
I love that came out of nowhere. That stuck up on me in the best way. I loved that.
Right, like, cry at a movie, for fuck's sakes. Take it in the butt. Bake some fucking cookies.
Do something.
Like, just get in touch. Do something without the context of whether or not it's right for your gender to do. It doesn't fucking matter.
Because then
if you do it and you enjoy it, why does it matter?
And you might not then drive a van into people, you know?
Right, yeah.
Like, this is what it is. This is what it is.
Spend
like,
less time on the internet. Get to know people. Get to know women. Not just to have sex with them. Sit down and talk to them like human beings.
Yeah, they don't owe you sex.
Right. Get to know their experiences. Do something that they find fulfilling and see if you find it fulfilling. Yes. Because what you find fulfilling isn't defined by society.
Uh-huh. God damn. It's so it's so true. Oh man, it's just so scary. And I'm the type of like, friendship to me is so important. My friends are my family. And when I know someone's going through something and they aren't talking about it, it makes me very nervous. But again, that's coming from me, who's like, I'm an open book. I talk.
Sure.
So I know that people have different ways of dealing, and I trust that they're okay. But it does make me nervous sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you just kind of have to let people come to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to just say, I'm here. I'm seriously here. I'm willing to listen. Please let me know if you need
it. It can be hard to know when to push and when not. Because sometimes people need that little extra, like, listen, I think you need to talk about this. And even if it's just like, we scratch the surface, like, let's just 5 minutes, that's it. I think that's really important too, as someone who, like we said earlier, like, avoidance is a large part of how our generation deals with anxiety and depression and mental health. I'm not totally into backing people into a corner, but sometimes people need to be challenged a little bit.
Yeah. Big time. 100%.
But it takes a gentle touch.
Yeah. And they might hate you for it.
It can't be heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And they might, which is fine.
And that's
they might hate you for it first and then grow to really care about you after that. Obviously, people don't like to be challenged, but again, I've known some people who needed to be challenged and who I challenged and who just dropped the whole thing and were like, fuck this, fuck you, I'm done.
Right.
out. And it's like, okay, well, so you just chose to not approach this.
Even try.
Yeah, you're not even going to engage this. You're not going to take any responsibility. You're not going to admit any kind of fault. You're not going to admit any insecurities. It's just, no, fuck you for saying that to me. I'm out. Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, I had no chance to begin with.
And you tried, is the thing. And not everyone tries. And, honest to God, though, this is something that I struggle with, where I very much so take that approach as well. Where if I'm worried or if something is popping up as a bright red flag to me, I will challenge it. And I am that person to challenge it, but I'm in a sea of friends that are very passive. And then my struggle becomes, how do I challenge this? Because I'm a very energetic person and sometimes I can come at you too hard.
Right.
And that's not good.
Yeah, people can be skittish. Yeah, it takes
So you have to almost refine how you do it.
Yeah.
And you, as the person who is challenging that person, needs to really think about how you're going to go about that.
Well, and if they're a close friend, obviously, you should know which paths to take. But, I think people are a little too afraid of challenging one another these days as well. People are more inclined to be apologetic, to give people too much space, the whole idea of, giving someone enough rope to hang themselves kind of thing.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, so true. That's what's always concerning with me. I'm always the one who, I'm going to at least send you a message. At the very fucking least, you're getting a message from me.
Yeah.
Whether you see it, read it, do anything about it, that's up to you. But I'm even the type, I will see concerning statuses on Facebook, and I don't know these people that well, but I'll sometimes reach out just because I feel... and some people see that and they're like, oh, they're looking for attention, or and I'm just like, no, I can't take that risk.
Well,
sorry,
it's hard to it's hard to differentiate regular old attention-seeking behavior and mental health attention-seeking behavior, considering most of our behavior is attention-seeking nowadays. Social media, that's essentially the whole fucking thing. Is I want to make my life seem super cool, or I want to have people care about me, and I'm going to scream it at the fucking mountaintops. So differentiating between those actual cries for help versus those calls for attention.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It's really
it's a
hard.
roll of the fucking dice most of the time. And that's the kind of thing that, mental health professionals should be dealing with. And it's one of the negatives about having this constant public forum.
Ugh, it's real hard.
I've kind of fallen disillusioned with a lot of social media nowadays. I haven't posted on Twitter in 2 years. I'm fucking done with Twitter. Instagram from time to time, maybe. Facebook, mostly. I'm just there to lurk and keep abreast of local events and concerts and whatever. Other than that, I'm more or less done with the internet.
I'm doing an episode about it tomorrow. My afternoon episode tomorrow is all about social media, and this particular guest
find that episode on iTunes.
Yeah, really though. Follow us on Facebook. This particular person has chosen not to he's deleted accounts. I've taken social media breaks before where I've deactivated accounts, and it's done wonders for me. Which is odd because I have a love-hate relationship with the medium. But it's good sometimes. It's good to be aware of this shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard situation to navigate sometimes. But I think the coping mechanisms that we've collectively developed of, rampant escapism and binge watching and,
Escapism.
Right, yeah. I've been doing that since I was fucking...
Can we talk about the dominatrix for a moment? I want to talk about
Apropos of nothing. Yeah, go ahead.
Escapism. That's a very interesting... So, when you were... So, you hired a professional dominatrix.
I did, yeah, a few times.
When did you start doing this? Was it right after your mom died?
About a month, yeah.
Okay. So, why did you do that?
Always something I was interested in. I had been party to a few nightshade parties and a few of the fetish parties and things like that. And it was cathartic.
Imagine.
The way I described it on Turn Me On was emotional alchemy.
Yeah.
So you're taking this metaphysical pain that you can't understand or you don't have the capacity to deal with, and you're turning it into something that you can refine, something that you can deal with, which for me was grief turned into physical pain, turned into a release. The whole idea of a dominatrix where you're told what to do and you don't need to do anything. You don't have to make any decisions. You are totally bent to somebody else's will.
You just do it.
Right. Yeah.
You're told and you just do it.
You're an object of someone else's desires or whims.
Yeah.
And you're made to endure things. And it's that whole idea of finding pleasure in endurance and not in pain.
Yes. Such an interesting way to look at it, because I don't think I ever looked at it like that before.
Well, and the woman that I hired, and I'll say it here, Mistress Annabella Payne, she's based out of Dartmouth, the Society of Bastet, and she is not only professional, very beautiful, highly intelligent. Damn. Very, very highly intelligent. We spoke a lot before and after the sessions about a lot of these things. And she has a lot of experience, obviously, with fetishism and with the psychology of it. I found it absolutely fascinating.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk? Did you guys have conversations?
Yeah. 15, 20 minutes before and after.
That's good, though.
Yeah, we would just, we would connect as people.
Yeah,
which was really nice. Yeah, it was a lot more personal than I thought it would be. And she told me a lot about the relationships that she has with a lot of the people who come to see her. And a lot of them are the kind of people you wouldn't expect, foremans on a lumber yard or professionals,
It's so fascinating.
Guys who are, rich with big dicks or whatever, who come and essentially prostrate themselves because they need to be checked a little bit, or
they need to be put in their place,
or maybe because they, there's I think a lot of people have this voice in the back of their mind that's maybe I just need to be taken down a peg,
Yes.
you might have that modesty bug in the back of your head where you're maybe I'm getting a little too full of myself here. Maybe I should just fucking take it down a notch.
I love
or
that.
Or maybe I should challenge myself against a powerful woman. Because what I understood from some of the cases that she told me were these guys who were just lady killers who needed to they were cocky. They would come and talk shit to her while they were bound and strapped to whatever, and they'd be talking shit.
They're brats.
Yeah.
That's what a brat is.
Yeah.
You know what? I found out. I did BDSMquiz.org.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm mostly sub.
On FetLife.
And my second highest was brat.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
See a lot of that, yeah. So essentially that, the psychology of it was really fascinating to me. And I would, honestly, I would absolutely love to do it more often, but it's not cheap.
I was going to say, so my main question about that is that's really cool. How did you, so when you were in the process of grieving and going through that, how did you land on, I'm going to hire a dominatrix? It was just a curiosity.
It's something I was always interested in.
Right.
Because I obviously experimented with BDSM in my personal life.
Got ya.
But I always found myself on the dominant side of things. A lot of the women that I was with tended to be more towards submissive. They wanted to be dominated. So it was really difficult to find someone who was comfortable in that role. Yeah. So I thought, well, I might as well hire a professional.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah, this person does it. They like to do it. They're good at it. They have the tools. Why not? And it was absolutely worth it, mind you. It's something that even the people in my personal life who have been open to it, there's a learning curve there as well. There's a lot of making them comfortable. So being in a submissive role, but also having to kind of make the other person comfortable being in a dominant role. Mm-hmm. You're there's a lot of complicated nuances to the power dynamics in a relationship like that, which again is why I really like the BDSM community and the power dynamics of sex.
It's fascinating.
It's really cool to me. I've always found myself very attentive to other people.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that means I kind of jump into bed with people a little quickly, if only to experience, like, to me, it's almost like a different kind of conversation.
Yeah.
You don't really know anyone until you know them in that kind of vulnerable state.
Oh my God, yes. It's so true.
And you learn a lot about someone in that state, which it's difficult too, because when you view sex and intimacy that way, I find it makes it a lot more difficult to have traditional monogamous relationships as well, because people get really angry at you for wanting to experience people in that way. Yeah, but something I think is becoming more and more accepted in the recent years.
Intimacy is tough. Like, intimacy is my main challenge.
Yeah?
I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to get that.
What kind of intimacy, though? Are we talking emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, intellectual, like how?
All of the above. Like sex to me has become, and it worries me, how casual it's become with me. It's literally a physical activity. The people I do it with, it's like, I have a lunch break, so I'm going to come over and bang you and leave. And so what's happening is like, these people aren't taking the time to really get to know me.
Right.
Or like what I want, da-da-da-da-da. They're not sticking around after. So literally, like, you come, you're out, like, you're not even laying beside me afterwards. So I'm not even getting that, like...
I was going to say, I like how I say you, because my follow-up question would have been, like, how often do you get off in these encounters?
No,
you wanted real, you got it.
A lot. I can make it happen if I'm provided the right platform for that, and by that I mean,
like, you got to do a lot of the legwork yourself.
Put me on top, and I'll be fine.
Right.
But that's me making it work. Like, I've mentioned this a number of times in the show, but like, if I'm on top, that's mostly me doing that. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. It's glorified masturbation at that point.
Exactly.
Right.
So like, sex has become so casual, and like, listen, there's nothing wrong with casual sex. It's just, I've been doing it for 6 years.
I mean, you also just admitted to it being glorified masturbation, meaning that the other person is essentially non-essential.
Yeah.
You know,
like, why? What's going on here? Like,
right, and
like, I feel kind of like a fleshlight.
But I've also kind of done that too, where I'm just like, somebody's like, hey, you want to go home after the bar? And I'm like, not really, no. I'm just gonna go home and jerk off and then go to bed, because like,
sometimes you just need that immediate release.
I also, this whole thing is gonna take a lot out of me. Like, this whole physical interaction, you're gonna come back and like, we're gonna argue about whether or not you should stay over, and then like, I don't have it in me.
And it's weird because when I think of intimacy, I think of it in terms of baby steps. Like, I have not slept beside another human in, I think, like 4 years. So like, I haven't had that sleepover aspect of a sexual relationship. To me, it's just like, just lay beside me for like a little bit, and like, maybe let's talk a bit, or like, let's watch a fucking movie. I don't know.
And even when people are sleeping in my bed, I don't sleep well next to another person.
Me neither.
I don't. And it's hard to admit. And some people, I think, are hurt by that too, where you're just like, you need to go. I got to work in the morning. I can't sleep with you in my bed.
In fact, if I banged a dude and went to his house and banged him, and if we had a great evening, and he was like, yeah, you should probably not. Like, if he said something like, don't stay the night, I wouldn't be offended. I would be relieved, because it's so, like, sleeping beside somebody is so intimate. In my mind, it's one of the most intimate things.
Well, and that's another thing that I found really, really interesting about my mother's passing, is that I didn't really have anyone, and not only intimate sexual partners either, but like, I didn't have anyone visit my apartment for months.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
5-6 months.
Crazy.
Yeah, I just kind of isolated myself and had my own weird little world. And the only time I ever invited anyone over was for sex, and when I did that, I was generally pretty fucking drunk.
And that really...
Yeah.
Drunk sex for... Ugh.
Right, and it kind of negates the whole, like, where am I at emotionally? It was just meaningless, essentially. Like, in that, I didn't really know how to deal, so I got drunk, and feelings that I had came out that I didn't realize were there, or that I didn't realize needed tending to, because, after 9 or 10 beer... everything seems like a good idea,
It's so true. And, oh my God. It's so eye-opening when you look back. Like, I don't know if you feel this way, but when you look back at the sex you have and you try to remember all the sober times, like, for me, I'm like, yeah, it's mostly drunk sex. Like,
right.
Fuck.
And some of it's pretty fucking good, but also it's
you need to be the right level of drunk.
Right, yeah.
There's a certain number of drinks.
For
me, it's 1 to 4.
So what are you on now, like 2, 3? No,
we are 2. Although you made this one strong, so
I didn't mean to. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that was a 1.5 ounce shot glass until I started like pouring them.
No,
I was like shit. Okay,
but yeah, sex as an escape is an interesting thing because I've kind of, for me, we're gonna get into sad territory here, but for me, I'm incredibly lonely. Like, that's my main challenge in life, is that I'm very much so craving an emotional connection. And for so long, I was like putting that as like, people think I want a boyfriend. They think I'm desperate. But really, it's just like, I don't even care about the boyfriend thing. It doesn't have to be a boyfriend or a traditional relationship. It's an emotional connection. And feeling lonely fucking sucks.
And
it really fucking sucks.
I'm kind of in the same place where, except I find it really easy to connect with people emotionally, but I don't want to do it for a long time.
Right.
If I have a one-night stand with someone, I'm very genuinely interested in them, and I'm very genuinely attentive to their needs when we, get to the bedroom kind of thing. And, the next day I'll make breakfast and, treat them very kindly. And then we say goodbye, and, you wind up getting a lot of calls, and, you have to be like, well, no, that was just a thing. I was being emotionally intimate with you. That doesn't mean I want to be emotionally intimate with you forever. Like, I don't know. Everyone has this whole idea that emotional intimacy
is long term.
Right. Instead,
it doesn't have to be.
Like, you can have these very intimate, brief moments. That's all life is, really, is these very meaningful, brief, fleeting moments. We're all gonna die. Fuck it. Like,
and you know what? No, I 100%, and I think it's only been in recent years that I've started appreciating that.
Right.
Because I used to be so fucking needy. Like but now I'm just like, you know what? Maybe it's not my path to have a partner. Right. Or like have a traditional boyfriend.
Yeah.
But at the very fucking least, I want to have some fucking fun. I want to live.
Well,
and I want to look back and say, I had this amazing night with this person and it was just a one night thing, but like it was so fun and amazing and it is what it is. But it was respectful and good and amazing. And I how cool is that?
Yeah, it's nice to feel listened to as a person and to feel attended to. I don't know why people see that and go, well, no, you had that with me. Now I don't want you to have it with anyone else.
Yeah. So
and it's like that comes off to me as very, very selfish.
And monogamy is so I think personally it's rare.
It's becoming more and more. I think it's kind of dying out.
It's really dying. Yeah. Polyamory is really trendy. But like, I think ethical non-monogamy, if done correctly, can work really well. But it has to be done correctly. And I think, like, going back to the whole, like, long-term thing, I think there's a stigma on, like, it's a one-night stand, so it must suck. And it's just like, it doesn't have to suck. It really doesn't have to. And I would rather have a bunch of one-night stands than none at all.
Right?
And, like that's just me being goddamn honest. Because loneliness really, really sucks, and it's nice to have a friend.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about at the bar, like the walk of shame, and how the walk of shame isn't really a thing anymore because none of us have any. Like, if I'm ashamed, it's because I'm in the clothes that I wore the night before. I still smell sweaty. I smell like sex. I'm probably missing a sock. Like, I'm ashamed because of how I look. I'm not ashamed of because of, where I'm coming from and where I'm going to.
Right.
And
when I have things like that, I'm on a high for 24 hours.
Yeah,
Like, if I have a wild night and I'm out all night and I'm walking home in, like, last night's makeup, like, I'm like, I feel like garbage, but damn!
Yeah, I just got laid. Boom.
Oh my God. It's so, like, yeah, I'm really starting to appreciate it more because I just find I would rather have stories and I would rather have experiences than not at all.
Yeah,
life
should be a lot more simple than it is.
Exactly. And like, it doesn't have to be like, I've only had 2 boyfriends my whole life. And if that happens, it happens. Cool. But right now, I just want to live and have a connection with somebody, have a fucking conversation, and then bang each other's brains out, make some goddamn bacon, and go home.
Wait, I'm gonna do this.
Oh, Pat! This is the first time Pat hit the bell.
I did it.
This is the first time you were really see what I mean about the bell?
I know, I was pretty apprehensive about the bell.
Do you see what I mean, though?
Yeah,
it feels really good when
satisfying.
you ding it.
It's pretty satisfying. Title your sex tape.
I wish. Oh, man.
Oh, Christ.
God damn. Is there anything else? Like, so we kind of touched on fighting. We touched on your 3 Fs, really.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I wonder if there's anything else that I can ask.
3 Fs. Telling you.
The 3 Fs.
It's the way to go.
How do you deal? I guess we'll end it with this. How do you deal day to day with struggling with all these different? We all have a fucking cocktail of stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
I feel like all of us are walking around with some form of depression, anxiety, ADD. Like, some of us are medicated, some of us aren't. Is there anything in your life that you think works well for you in terms of managing these things, or no?
Well, like my coworker Danny said,
we don't.
Yeah. I spend 3 hours a day playing video games. I exercise until I puke. And yeah, I basically do everything to run away from this fucking massive black dog that's constantly chasing me.
Oh my God.
That is, depression and the end of life and the horrible, horrible things in the world. And it's, you just get drunk and hang out with people and have fun and fuck and eat and just indulge. It's Epicureanism, really. The pursuit of not happiness but pleasure, which can be happiness.
Totally.
Yeah, and some people think pleasure-seeking behavior is a negative way to put it or a negative thing, but
there's a stigma on it, I think, sometimes. Like,
there is, yeah.
Like, when people want to go out and get drunk and have fun, like, people might say, oh, well, you're in your 30s. Like, that's not really responsible. And it's just like, fuck those people. Like, I would rather be a little tired the next day. But have a fun night, because sometimes you just fucking need it.
Well, and it's all about moderation. It's all about checking in with yourself as well.
Checking with yourself, yeah, that's a huge one.
Yeah, because sometimes I've been given medication to sleep and to not be anxious and whatever, but sometimes it's just easier to drink. It's like I can cover all that shit with a few cocktails or a case of beer. It's fine. I
feel like you're doing it well, though, because you're a regular drinker who exercises, and I am not. I do not exercise.
I mean, it's not awful
at all, and alcohol can definitely put up the pounds.
But you definitely have to check in on yourself, because you can seek pleasure and you can be the kind of person who has fun all the time, but you have to have that balance. You have to make sure you're not hurting other people. You have to make sure you're not hurting yourself.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
You're not making other people worry. So seek pleasure only insofar as it doesn't cause strife. There's people, when you say the term pleasure seeking or Epicurean, people think this hedonism. Uh-huh. It's not hedonism. It's not unbridled lust and gluttony. It's I'm going to try and be as happy as possible without sacrificing anything or anyone else. myself included,
Yeah.
Because the way that I exercise can easily be seen by some people as self-destructive. I have to ice my shins. I have to ice my back.
Like you go hard.
I get punched in the face, but I would rather that kind of self-destruction, the kind that ultimately builds you up, than going out and getting blackout drunk and dropping your phone and spending $150 and, sleeping with someone that you don't actually care about emotionally,
Because then you might be hurting another person.
That's actual self-destruction. You're hurting another person. You're hurting yourself. You're sabotaging your own success, your own happiness, ultimately. So long as you can seek pleasure and happiness without the negative side, like that, and that's the trick. That's the balance. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, and especially with the boxing. Like, I used to do kickboxing, and that shit it makes you... Taking your anger out and just punching something feels fucking good.
Punching something, but I've also always told people that being punched in the face is very character building.
Never been punched
I can look at someone, and, especially, like... when I was working at that dive bar in the kitchen and stuff, like there was a lot of like young university students who would come in and be real cocky.
And you're like, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
I could tell. I could look them in the face and be like, "You've never been smacked in the fucking mouth, have you?"
Damn.
Oh,
it's the entitlement.
So cute.
The entitlement.
Yeah, and that's.
I mean,
that kind of feeling that you like. I can look at someone and be like, "You've never been actually punched in the fucking head." So the second you stand up to them and you're just like, okay, let's go do this. And they're like, oh shit, I fucked up. Because they don't have that character where it's like, okay, I've been here before. I'm going to take this stand. Because they know it's not, like, they don't know it's not worth it. They're just like, oh fuck, I don't want to be punched in the face. I've heard that shit sucks. I don't want the negative stuff. I'm going to walk away. I just wanted to have my own way,
Kind of felt that way when I got slapped for the first time in the face during sex once. Like, no, I know. Shitty. It's really shitty. Talk about that shit beforehand.
Well, no.
100%.
Okay. And that's a whole other conversation.
But like...
ground rules.
But honestly, like, there was an aspect of that.
Yeah.
That, in my reaction to it, because, like, I even said it, like, that was non-consensual and that was really fucking not cool. And you gotta talk about that shit before you ever...
Right.
And it was open hand, hand slap.
Yeah. But
still, you gotta talk about that with whoever you're fucking before you do that. But when it happened to me... It happened, and my instant reaction wasn't, what a jerk. It was like, And then there's a guilt associated with that, right? Because you're like, I liked that. Ooh, I must not respect myself.
Yeah, you're like, I should have stood up. I should have said something kind of thing. That's a totally different situation where it's very intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the context of that, that's always fine to me and to other people, because it's always like, okay, you're into that, you're into that, you're into that. Okay, cool. I'm into this, I'm into this. How hard? Okay, cool. Set the ground rules and go at it, and that's fine. And that's why I've never been in an actual fight, a street fight, because when I go into the boxing ring, that is essentially consensual.
Right.
Right. That's the same as being hit in the face during sex. That's consensual. It's two people deciding that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, talk about that shit.
Yeah, but then you have someone come up in a bar and you're like, well, what the fuck are you gonna do about it? And you're like, oh, okay, so this is how it's gonna go then. Well, I'm not gonna punch you in the face, and you're welcome to take a swing at me. So, like, the social contract is written. We can do it here, we can do it there. Like, and that's the difference, going from consensual to non-consensual. And the whole idea of, well, I'm going to punch you in the middle of this crowded bar. And it's like, buddy, let's go out back where no one can interrupt. That's consensual. You and I are going to decide as adults to go out back and be violent.
Yeah.
And most people are just like, no, fuck that. So that to me,
as soon as people aren't watching,
that's the equivalent of you being slapped in the face non-consensually during sex. Some guy being like, I'm going to start a fight. And I'm like, don't start it here. Let's go out back. I'll fight you. One-on-one, no one else looking, just gonna be you and me. And they're like, no, fuck that, man. Yeah, just immediately like, no.
Such a good metaphor.
Right. And that's the difference between, I think, the energy. Yeah. Part of me kind of misses working in a dive bar.
Right.
Because as much as I've never been in a street fight, part of me is just like, give me a reason. Like I have
think
that.
There's a lot of guys like that.
Fucked up violent energy where I'm just like, I'd love for that to happen. And a lot of people are like, that's fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like,
I don't, like I kind of want to be in a fight too.
Well, it's because it's out of our depth. It's
I want to kick
different.
ass.
Right, yeah. Everyone wants to be a fucking superhero.
Like when I think of like my version of what I would do for exercise if I got my shit together, I would probably go back to kickboxing for that reason, because I like high impact, super fast. Like I like a shorter amount of time, but like super high impact. Rather, I mean, I'm not a fucking yoga chick. I can't do it. I just never will be one. I'm sorry.
You say that now, but my shoulders, knees, and elbows would definitely have a discussion with you.
I've downloaded fucking meditation apps on my phone, and I have tried, and I cannot do it. I am just not that girl. Like I need fast and high impact workouts.
I recommend it to anybody, really.
It's fantastic.
And, anybody listening, if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend Warriors Boxing. They're in Dartmouth.
Okay.
Kelsey Frazier is the head trainer, used to be the head trainer at Palooka's. He's a very kind man, very good at what he does, and will push you in however far you want to be pushed.
I love it.
Yeah. Great people. And boxing gyms or martial arts gyms are some of the most welcoming places I've ever been. Everyone's there for the same reason, to push themselves, to push one another. You don't get the weird stares. You don't have the muscle-bound idiots. You have people there for one reason and one reason only.
Love it.
Yeah, it's I can hardly stomach to go back to a regular gym now.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah.
Don't know how people do it. I'm gonna run this treadmill. Like I like running outside.
Yeah, most people just throw their headphones in and they do their own thing, which is fine. Honestly, it's easier for me because I'm not a good-looking woman. I can imagine it's way fucking harder to go to a gym.
Yeah, I feel like if I were to do the gym thing, it would be like a women's only gym. But then it's like you meet people. Like if I went to a co-ed gym, I could maybe meet someone. Who am I kidding?
I don't know. A lot of people say that, but I never interact with people at the gym.
No,
I go to the gym
it's
and
a
I do
really
my thing
weird
and I
time
leave.
to do it.
It's like, yeah. Who the fuck is meeting other people at a gym?
And how does that happen?
Go in, do your workout, shut up, and leave.
It's like people who meet people at grocery stores. How?
Like, I sometimes talk to people in line at the grocery store. It's not a fucking rom-com. Like, I don't... No.
God damn.
I gotta pick up my ramen and my eggs, and I'm leaving.
Ramen and eggs. Yes. The saddest of foods, but I love that you said you want to make someone breakfast in the morning, because that's my dream.
I just love cooking. I love cooking for people. That's fine. And if I'm gonna wake up in the morning and cook breakfast anyway, and there's someone else there, it's not like I'm not gonna cook for them.
That's my dream.
That would be rude.
That's what I always say. I'm just like, stick around, fucking like if you want to leave, fuck me and leave. That's fine. But if you stay the night,
you get toast.
You get bacon.
Get a bacon sandwich.
A sandwich. I make a good one. Goddamn, this has been like amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, like we could probably go on for another 2 hours, but
it's way too hot to do that.
You'll come back on though.
I'm so sweady.
You'll come back on, right?
Gladly, yeah.
Yeah, this was
absolutely
awesome.
gladly.
Thank you
Especially
so much.
because I live right around the corner.
Yeah, you're so close.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Thanks so much for coming on. This went deep and funny, and like this covered everything. It's not something that everyone can talk about so candidly. And for that, I thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully you can catch me on another podcast that I'll be hosting eventually.
Just start charging to be guests on shows.
In the near future, I might have my own. But I'm essentially just like the couch surfer of podcasts in Halifax now.
My God, podcast couch surfer. That's great.
But yeah, no, I'm really glad you could have me. And yeah, I hope to come back again. Hopefully we can get some more folks on and do something funny and quirky and weird, because I'm also just a massive pop culture nut too.
Oh,
so
100%, Pat. Like, now that you've popped your intoxicated cherry,
yeah.
Like, I mean, first times are always,
Next time, let's do movies.
Next time we're gonna go even deeper. Like, we're gonna upgrade the what's like anal training. Like, we're gonna upgrade the dildo.
Yeah, that's right. Flared base. Next time we're gonna get to the big rubber fist.
Yes. It's just baby steps. It's baby steps. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks so much again.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming over on this super fucking hot day. And hopefully you'll be back. So the guest always ends the show with a bell ring. So ring that bell. I love when people go for multiple dings. Yeah, multiple dings are where it's at.
That was satisfying. I'm into it.
Woohoo! Oh, you're still here? Well, thanks so much for listening to the Intoxicated Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you find podcasts and vote for Intoxicated in the Best of Halifax Reader's Choice Awards in the News and Media category for Best Podcast. You can cast your vote at bestofhalifax.com. Thanks again for listening.